Mahubub's been great. They've been on lots of calls, and they're based in Abu Dhabi, aren't you? And oh, there you go. Hi from Abu Dhabi, right as I said it.
You've had people from all over the place, haven't you?
We've had 16 countries so far. Hello, Nicole.
That's amazing.
It's been fabulous. That's how you co-create. That's how you make a brave new world. You bring everyone from around the world. Hello, everyone, as you're joining in. Please, if you can type into the box, where are you zooming in from? And over in Facebook land, feel free to tell us as well, because I am watching you over there. There are no secrets. The secret is there are no secrets.
Are you wearing a red cape?
I am. See, there we go. We're live in Facebook land. So I'm watching all of you people in Facebook. Great. I do have my Superhuman cape on, as you can see. Oh, that looks weird. It looks like my head is...
It does. I almost bought one the other day. And then when I tried it on, it just about choked me. So I didn't think that would really work.
Yeah, it kind of does feel like that. Hello, Michelle Popovsky. Hello, darling. Hello, Joe. Hello, Jan. Oh, we've got some leading ladies and people joining in. That's awesome. Great to hear, Mahubub, that this has been timely for you in your journey. It is our pleasure. So welcome everyone to the Superhuman Summit. We're right on the hour. Let's get underway. And our second last speaker of the day.
Oh, I can't believe it's over.
We are nearing the end of a marathon 8 days, which has been just so delicious. 40 speakers. You are speaker 39, Loretta. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
We always save some of the best towards the end.
No pressure.
No pressure. Hi, Rebel. How are you?
That's so funny.
Having our closing ceremony in a couple of hours. So please be sure to jump on and join Michelle and I and Stephen and also Sister Janty and Peter for the closing ceremony in a couple of hours. But right now we have this woman, beautiful Loretta. What's Nosh telling me? Counselling call booked at 6 p.m. with tissue boxes. Oh, have we done that to you? Or because it's over, hey Nosh? We'll have to do a mini summit just for you when it's over. Nosh is in Melbourne, Loretta, so heading south your way because you're a little bit south.
Yeah.
And a few people on Facebook are saying, let's do it again. Yeah, after we've had a wee rest and a nap, we'll be ready to go again.
Well, you've got this great platform now, so you kind of have to keep the momentum going.
We will be doing more. Don't worry, Michelle and I already have lots in store for everyone. So there'll be lots more to come to keep co-creating with the universe and with all of you beautiful people. So this lady I have in front of me is someone I've known for several years now. We've both had other lives and other ways of knowing each other as well. And Loretta is what you would call a human transformation coach and trainer. Ooh, human transformation. Ooh. I have been a client of hers and experienced some of her Biofield rebalancing spiritually and physically and realigning.
She's rebalancing.
She's also played with me in Leading Ladies and had a great time with our amazing community there of alumni. And what she's going to work with us today is, I guess, helping us understand what is the human biofield and how it affects our nervous system and how that might contribute to our overall physical, psychological, and as I said, spiritual health. And what are some of the little things you can do to maintain a healthy system? I always feel a little bit stretched in my brain when I talk to Loretta, and I love that. I love having friends that stretch my brain.
Yeah, you have to have people who do that, don't you?
Yeah, the whole body needs exercise, but I love it when my brain gets a bit squishy too. So here we go. Shall I hand over to you and you can just roll with it? I'll be monitoring all the questions. So for those of you on Zoom, down below, you can see there's a Q&A box or the chat box. You all seem to prefer the chat box. You like the little streamy bit, don't you? Yeah. And those of you at home on Facebook, I'm watching you. So I'll know when you make a comment or ask a question. Loretta, are you open to questions throughout as we go?
Sure. Let's just see how we go.
Right. Beautiful. Over to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. And I haven't had time to tune into a lot because we've actually been really busy with our business. But I've listened on and off to people speaking, and I'm just in awe of what's available out there, and the caliber of the talent that you have in this group is incredible. So I've listened to all the different models of coaching, and there's so many. Like if you're struggling right now, there is a model in this summit that will help you. It's very clear that there's a lot of people who are so qualified to help people become superhuman. And so I guess what I'm doing is I'm just offering another model, another way for us to be superhuman. So personally, I do, as I said, I do transformation coaching, and I'm interested actually in, I call myself an accelerated growth coach. So I like to, I'm not like, you know, let's slowly do this process. I'm more of a rip the Band-Aid off kind of person, right? And so I'm always looking for things, for modalities and for techniques that kind of assist in that. And so what I'd like to talk about today is something that isn't really new. I mean, it's been around for thousands of years, but it's only just started to be talked about in the mainstream. So it's a technique that I use. Well, I'll talk about the technique later, but what it basically is it addresses your electromagnetic health. And it's an area of ourselves that we don't often think about. You know, we think about mind and we think about body, but we rarely think about electromagnetic health. And so that's what I'd like to talk about today. I started using Biofield work, it must have been about 4 years ago. So it's kind of new to me too. And it's this technique that I use is fairly new. But the way it came about for me was, I'm an explorer. I've always been an explorer. I've been psychic since I was a kid. And I've always been drawn to that kind of thing in the world, in psychic experience and meditation and astral traveling and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm drawn to this kind of work. And many, many years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to the work of Dr. Valerie Hunt, and it literally blew my mind. Now she's deceased now, but she has this incredible body of work, and she was a real pioneer in the whole vibration and electromagnetic fields and consciousness. Her studies are incredible. So I got into this work because of her work. I just found it totally fascinating. She was one of the first people that I started reading about who talked about the electromagnetic field in relation to our health. So what I'm talking about today it's not my discovery or anything like that. It's simply my experience of the work of pioneers such as Dr. Valerie Hunt, Barbara Brennan, Deepak Chopra has talked about biofield health for a long time. Mostly Eileen Day McCusick, because the tuning that I do comes directly from her work, and a lot of what I'm talking about is from her research, and she's incredible. Her book is amazing. So it's really just my experience of their work. I think right now, actually, for all of the energy workers out there and for people who are psychic and clairvoyant and doing this kind of work, this is a really exciting time for us because it's becoming normal. Once upon a time, if I had talked to you about biofield tuning or any of that kind of conversation, it was still in the woo-woo realm. And I'm so grateful that
I think even you hear politicians and CEOs now who are regular meditators who talk about alternative therapies, and it used to be that was not something that was talked about. I know as a coach, a lot of CEOs would say to me, "Don't tell anyone I'm working with you."
Yeah, I know. You'd be surprised at how many men in business suits I've tuned. You know, they think it's great. Once they realize what it is, and of course they want to be the best they can be, they're all over it. They think it's fantastic. So just imagine, if you will, for a minute, what your life would be like if you were just calm all the time. Just imagine if you were just calm all the time and you had clarity, if you could recall information more easily, if you could learn information more easily. Imagine if you had superhuman intuition, or even if you had, you know, little or no disease or dysfunction in your body. Like, imagine if all that noise was gone. And as you're there imagining that space, do you think it might be possible that in that quiet place you might discover yourself? And if so, do you think that instead of just existing, you would actually start to thrive? So that's kind of what superhuman is, I think. It's being so present and pure in this container, in this spiritual container that we have, that we're not blocking life, we're actually in the flow of life. And that's what interests me. Like, how do we get to that? Which is what I know you're interested in. And it's been addressed in so many different ways in this forum that it's incredible. And I know personally from years of experience in working with people that it's actually quite possible to accomplish this kind of state. So what I'm going to talk about then is this modality of taking care of your biofield, which has the potential for such a massive impact in your life. And we talk about healthy mind, and we talk about healthy body as the foundations for thriving. And yes, they're important. They're part of the whole. They're part of the equation. But there's something that I have decided for myself from experience that comes before that, and that's your electromagnetic field and your electromagnetic health. So it's also commonly called your aura. And we started referring to it as Biofield back in 1994, when a group of scientists because now this is a scientifically studied phenomenon, so they had to give it a scientifically acceptable name, so hence Biofield. So with all this research available now, and from my experience with my clients, I actually believe that the biofield is the starting point for health in the mind and the body. And when we have a healthy biofield or electromagnetic field, then physical health and mental health are a lot easier to attain and maintain, if that makes sense. So what is it? What is this field, this electromagnetic field? So we are pure energy. Einstein talks about this. We're pure energy. We are electromagnetic radiation or light. So we're biophotonic. So everything in our world is energy whose vibration has been slowed down to be perceivable by the senses. Okay, we know this. But it's all to do with electromagnetic energy vibrating at different frequencies. So you'd also call it subtle energy, or chi, or prana, or mana, 0 point, so on, life force inherent in all things. So we are energy, we are light, we are biophotonic, we are surrounded by an electromagnetic field that appears as a toroidal shape, so emanating from our crown and our connection to Earth. We're a toroidal field of moving energy, and it appears that mind and memory exist in the field. So not only does our body have an electromagnetic field, our organs have an electromagnetic field. Every individual organ has its own field and its own field of information. The Earth has its own electromagnetic field, which extends hundreds of thousands of kilometers out into space, and that's affected by Schumann resonance and lightning and all that, but that's another story. You know, when we get what do you call it, an EKG, we're measuring the electrical activity of the heart, and in an EEG, we're measuring electrical activity of the brain. Our nervous system carries electrical information around our bodies, and so on. Neurons are transferring electrical information, which influences our hormones, such as dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and all of these systems. They're all electrical. Think of our cells. Our cells are specialized to conduct electrical currents. So these are all elements in our body that make up our nervous system and who we are. They are life, really. So we're electric beings. That's it. At our simplest, purest light form, we're electric beings. So the human biofield is basically...
And Peter Dixon talked about this on Friday as well in his presentation, because he was talking about different frequencies and using music for healing.
Cool.
And he was talking about that specifically, and tuning forks as well, and being able to find where something was out of alignment purely through, you know, that biofeedback that comes from all the different organs. It's fascinating. And I know there's been lots of studies as well on Tibetan monks and the electromagnetic field of their hearts, and that they found...
And they're huge.
Yeah, that they had this frequency that was as big, and their hearts were as strong as Olympic runners and things like that, purely through their meditation and their consciousness and being from that heart space, and that it could be measured for kilometers, unlike most of us that it's, you know, just around our
it's just like most people, their heart field is, you know, 3 to 4 feet. But you're right, in those monks that practice these techniques, they are, and we're all capable of that, and then that's what I find really exciting. So as you said, we can measure these fields. We can measure them using and I can never say this word, magnetometers. And they're just specialized equipment that they use that they're using now to study the biofield and gather up all of this information. So I like to think of my electromagnetic field as, you know how you see those human bubbles that people get inside? Well, that's kind of how I see it. That's my field. And if you meditate on your field long enough, you can actually become really aware of it and its presence and how far it is.
Noshi's just said they're called zorbs.
That's my experience anyway. There's a meditation that I've done in the past where I'm so acutely aware of where my field extends to that it's like I can feel it when it hits the walls or the door when I'm moving through the house. So this is a real tangible thing. Our electromagnetic field is a real tangible thing. And I know because I can find it for you. If we do work together and you've experienced this, I can find where it starts and where it ends and so on. So, and we're going to talk about the heart shortly because the heart plays a fairly important role in the health of your electromagnetic field. There's a lot of physics involved in this conversation, but I'm not going to go there because we need to keep it fairly simple in this short space of time. But you know, if anyone's interested, I can post some of the researchers so they can go and explore it for themselves because it's a fascinating conversation and it's so amazing. So
definitely, we have a hungry crowd here who love references. So I've actually tagged you in this, Loretta, in the Facebook group called the Superhuman Summit. So perhaps you could post some references there later, and so people after this talk could go there and find some references.
This work blows my mind every time I do it. So I'm going to talk about Eileen Day McCusick's research because it's her work that I do and I understand the most. So according to her, we appear to have standing waveforms within our fields that are generated by our body and they move outward from our bodies. And these waveforms contain encoded information of the memories and our experiences. So basically every single thought, emotion, sensation that we have that we feel or experience on a daily basis gets recorded in these waves and stored in our field. And the information in the waves is organized chronologically. So the very edge of your field holds the first records of your birth and so on. And the closer you get to your body, the more present you are in time. So it's, if you imagine, it's kind of like the tree rings on a tree. And outside, so I have in my work found information outside the field that relates to previous life or ancestral information, but I don't experience that very often. But basically, everything is in our field, which leads to the conclusion that mind and consciousness are in the field. So we generate these waveforms and then we send them out into our electromagnetic field. And so if you consider that we are basically receiving and transmitting stations, that's what we do. So if you think of a radio station, it has a carrier wave and it sends that carrier wave out into the airwaves, and then information gets encoded onto that wave like a song, and then we tune into it, right? So that's basically how we work. Every experience that we have gets encoded into our own carrier wave, and then we transmit it out into the field where it becomes a record of the past. So we also receive information from outside of the field. So everything coming to us has to come through our field first and then into our brain and into our senses, right? That's a whole other conversation.
But I have to ask. So does that mean when that information's coming into us, can we block it if we choose to, or does it just naturally come in, or is there a way or a technique?
It actually kind of goes back to that model of we're only aware of information. We only become aware of information that kind of fits within our model of reality, and the rest of it we filter out.
Yeah, right? Which is what they teach in NLP, kind of, isn't it? 70,000 bits of information coming at us every second, and we can only see 5 to 7 of them. Yeah,
so we filter information according to our beliefs and values and so on, our conditioning, basically. Right. So, you know, when you always hear people say, oh, I got this vibe from that person. That's what that is. That's just us. That's the transference of information within the field that we're downloading and translating into, oh, that's what it feels like, right?
Yes, we're all just emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Emotions are organized energy which carry information, right? Emotions produce specific frequency signatures, and they can be coherent frequency or incoherent frequency. So coherent frequency is simply one that's ordered, is consistent, and is clear. So peace, love, and joy, these are coherent signals. Incoherent frequency is disordered, inconsistent, and unclear. And these would be anger, frustration, fear. And this is where our hearts come into play, because the heart produces either coherent or an incoherent frequency pattern based on the emotions that we feel. So really, your heart is the driving rhythm for your entire body. So it's important. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So let's just say a significant emotional event or a traumatic experience will cause you to generate incoherent waveforms, and we send them out and they stay there. They get stored there. So within your field, you have this collection of standing waveforms encoded with every emotion, every sensation, every trauma, from the tiniest little trauma to the greatest trauma. It all gets recorded in these waveforms and gets stored in your electromagnetic field. So we can actually go through and find that information at any point in time in your history. So basically, you are the sum total of every input that you've experienced in your life. Everything from birth till now, there's a record of this information, And it's all there for us to see, to read, if we know how to do it.
So we're like this giant library of experiences and emotions and yeah, right.
And so, you know, when I first started learning coaching, I always felt that information was in the unconscious mind, which it is. But now I also realize that it's available in the field, which then there's a whole lot of questions that could come from that, right? That just, again, is mind-blowing stuff. But basically, it's all there. Everything that we are and have experienced is available in this space if we know how to find it. And then add to that pollution from the outside, microwave, radio wave. You know, we live in our homes have Wi-Fi on 24/7 now. We collect noise from our environment and from other people who have influence in our lives. We gum up our fields because of our own noise, you know, all the negative self-talk that we engage in. So when you think about it, by the time you're 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever, or even 20 for that matter, and you've had this lifetime of experience, do you think it's possible you're a little bit out of tune? Possible, right?
Nah. What, us? Nah. It's like psychic soup, isn't it? When you think about just how much could be out there. And I know I've spent time with people before that, you know, people say are energy vampires, and you do feel quite drained having them in your space. So yeah, the thought that we're walking around in that globally all the time is quite overwhelming. And
interestingly enough, and you know that's true, we are very influenced by other people's energy fields. There's no doubt about that. But who's doing the influencing? So if you have a strong, coherent, clear field, you are now the influencer. Oh, I'm an influencer.
So the ones with clearer fields have stronger influence, have more frequency, vibration, radiance. Which means, again, coming back to what a theme has been through the whole 8 days, which is do the work on yourself.
Do the work on yourself. Oh, what was Michelle's card yesterday? About attracting. What was it? It was so great. It was so great. I was bursting through my computer screen. I was like, oh my God, that's what we're talking about. Because when you're clear, I call it my prayer field. But when your field is clear, be careful what you wish for. Because it's going to show up.
Whether you like it or not.
Quickly. That's my experience. Anyway.
And that's where people like Joe Dispenza's work, where he talks about coming back to the 0 point, and that when you get into that 0 point, how you can instantly manifest, that things can just happen so quickly. And I don't know about anyone who's listening, maybe in the chat box, type a Y if you've ever experienced being in the slipstream of flow. So in the chat box on Facebook or here in Zoom, if you've ever experienced flow, here we go. And you know things happen quickly, you manifest quickly, you think something, the phone rings, it happens. And I know Michelle and I late last year and then again earlier this year spent time in Bali, and both times we had so many synchronicities just happening because we were so into that flow. So Shanti's had it several times, Nicole has, Nosh has had it, people in Facebook land are going yes, Kavita, Michelle,
Well, what's interesting is it's great when you experience those moments of when you're in the flow, but that should be how you live. You should be in the flow all of the time. And I tune my body regularly. And I feel like I am flowing, just like it's a natural state now. And that's why I love this work, because I know what the dark side looks like. I've been there. It's a long time ago, but I've been there, and I know what the difference is. And so
everyone's going, help me get in the flow now. Help me get in the slipstream, join the river.
Yeah, it takes work. It takes work and consistency, but it's totally possible. And I can tell you from my life, you know, before and after, you know, in the darkness and on the other side, and living from a creative space, that flow of life, just being that flow of life is totally possible.
And even then you see it manifest in things like your family, your relationships, your business, right? You've seen things just exponentially, you know, flow. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does. And serendipity, synchronicity, that kind of stuff. I've had the most amazing experiences lately, especially of just things showing up or people showing up, and it's just blows my mind. So it's possible.
The juiciness of life. All right.
I know, it's so exciting. I'm so excited. Life to me is exciting.
Yes.
But you know what? I've been in the darkness, so I know the difference. Anyway, where was I? I digress. Oh, so we do this, don't we? So the thing is, this is all really important because it appears that our health is related to our electromagnetic field. There's a direct link now. It's been proven time and time again. Coherent vibrations produce stable systems, and incoherent vibrations produce unstable systems. And if we apply that to the human body, health is a stable system. It's really that simple. So Dr. Valerie Hunt, she actually believes that ill health is vibrational. And when you think about everything as vibration, there is no other way. It has to be vibrational. So I 100% agree with that. It's actually considered that all disease begins in the field first in an incoherent frequency, which eventually manifests in the body as pathology. And that's not new information. Back in the 1770s, the great hypnotist Franz Mesmer was playing around with this idea. And the Egyptians have known this 2,000 years ago. So the human energy can be analyzed. We can analyze it with GDV technology. And that, I don't know if you've ever had a GDV photo done, I've had several, and disease shows up in the field. It's so clear. So we can actually use it. Distortions in the field, when they show up in these, we can use it to predict disease.
So I think people have heard of like an ECG, an echocardiogram and things like that before. Yeah. And a couple of people have just said, what's GDV? Because that's new to some people. So what's GDV?
So it's a measure of light, really, I think. I'm no expert on this. I have had the photos done, but GDV stands for gas discharge visualization. And what they do is they put these little sensors on your fingertips, one at a time, and they take photos of them, and they measure the discharge of light, I think is how it works. And this technology can get a very clear reading of your psychological and your physiological state of health. And it's so accurate, it's insane.
So it's for those people who might have had an aura photo taken before, this is beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Russians, I think it's a Russian invention, and I'm pretty sure they use it on older people, like seniors. They measure their life force energy to determine whether they'll survive a surgery or not.
Wow. I thought you were going to say whether they admitted them into an aged care facility.
No, it's totally fascinating. We're just catching up.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So our system is designed to support life and to support the flow of life. And where the flow of energy gets blocked, pathology occurs. Energy healers, that's what they work on. They work on this basis, unblocking the flow of energy. So when energy becomes blocked in the field, it's related to periods of stress or trauma recorded in the field, and it shows up in the field as distortions or noise in the signal. And these incoherent signals play out in our nervous system 24 hours a day. And we experience them as those triggers that set us off for no reason. Busy mind, inability to sleep. PTSD is distortion in the field, just playing over and over like a broken record. We hold these distortions in our muscles as tension. You have no idea how many people who I've cleared their distortion in their field, like 7 feet, 6 feet from their body, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, that shoulder pain that I've had for the last 10 years, it's actually gone.
So I want you to reiterate what you just said, because I think that's really valuable. People are saying you're giving them goosebumps, or truth bumps as we call them, the chills, which is good. You just said something about PTSD is like something stuck in your field that's just playing over and over.
This is the very basic level description of PTSD, because it's a complex topic. Mm-hmm. And I don't do a lot of work with PTSD because it's a little outside of my scope. Okay. Mm. But if you consider a memory is a picture with an electrical charge. So it's an electrical charge which is emotional. So the picture occurs and the emotion gets attached to it, but we also get anchored to the memory through sounds and that kind of thing. So if you think that trauma is not in your body, it's not in the event, it's in your nervous system, which now we can say is in the field. So because these waveforms are constantly vibrating, when we're triggered, so the typical one would be returned soldiers. You know, they hear a gun, they hear a bang, and they're immediately taken back to the memory, and the memory still has the emotional charge. And so it's the emotional charge that releases all the hormones and the adrenaline that makes them feel like they're experiencing again. And then they experience it again. And the memory is so strong and clear for them because they've played it over and over and over and over. Right. The unconscious mind doesn't know it's not real. So it's like they're reliving it every day.
And there's so much emotional charge, which is what I think in German they call a Gestalt.
It's the Gestalt,
yes. You know, an event now triggers things from the past. In the Facebook group, we've also had Isabella, who I know has done some work with Aboriginal healers, talking about how they see and feel this energy field. It's often what they're working with, right?
Yeah. So when we take the emotional charge out of the picture, all you're left with is a picture with no meaning. Does that make sense? That's the simplified version. Now, doing that is not that simple. PTSD it's a difficult condition to treat. I'm not trying to make light of it. This is not, and I'm not saying that this is the answer to it, just to be clear. All of these incoherent signals, they mess up pretty much every system in our body. Digestive system, and like everything is directly related to these waveforms playing over and over and over. Does that make sense? I'm actually better at doing it than articulating.
What about for all of you listening? Does that make sense? Tell me in the chat box, is this making sense to you all? I think it's fascinating, and yes, Nosh has said it's a bit complex, but yes.
It's very complex, and we only have a short space of time, so that's why I'm trying to keep it simple.
Everyone's saying yes, thanks, Kelly. And I think at a soul level, you're probably finding yourself nodding, even if you can't quite wrap your brain around it, you'll have a knowing. Yeah, Mahubub is saying, I've experienced this. Yes, people over in Facebook land are all doing lots of thumbs up for you.
Yeah, good. So when you think that every system in the body is somehow affected by information held in your field, then the leap for me then is, if you want to improve your health, your resilience, improve your coherency. You know, stress is an interesting topic. Stress isn't something you have, it's something you do. Stress is a mismatch to your model of reality that causes you to react in a certain way to a certain circumstance. But I think what happens is, because we're not doing daily maintenance on our nervous system, the cup runneth over. So our nervous system has a threshold, and we keep pushing the boundary of that threshold. And then once you reach the threshold, you go over the top. And you'll know you're over the top because you're having like completely ridiculous responses to circumstances that don't warrant that response. It'll be a completely inappropriate response for what's happening. So, you know, you think about when you see people fighting over toilet paper at the supermarket, you have to think they've just reached their threshold. Perhaps they're so unresourceful and their lives are so stressful that COVID-19 has completely pushed them over the edge. That's an example of not being able to cope. That's not resilience.
Right. And so it wasn't necessarily the need for toilet paper that was driving. It was people were already over their threshold. Their cups were already running over. And so that one thing was that's the thing that pushed them over the edge. And that's a big thing. And I'm not surprised it pushed people over it. Whereas Ned and I, because we do this work all the time, we're like, this is interesting. And then we just got on with our business. You know, we followed the rules, we took the precautions, but we didn't really think that much about it. I wasn't losing my mind over it. And that's the difference, I think, between having a handle on your health and your electromagnetic health. And as you said before, improve your coherence, improve your immunity. And so the stronger your
everything, it improves everything.
The more in alignment you feel, the less likely you are to be blown around by the breeze when it blows fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes before we open up for a few final Q&As.
So I do this work. I'm going to talk, what I want to talk about, are we that far into it already? We haven't even talked about how we can do it. Do we want to talk quickly about how?
Yes. Does everyone want the how? Give me a why or a thumbs up. Do you want yes? Okay,
right.
So we want the how. Yes.
So in my experience, so what I've noticed is working with people who have high levels of stress. I personally use Biofield tuning. So Biofield tuning is where we take this beautiful big fork, especially, and we activate it. And I put it I walk through your electromagnetic field, and I can find, just using my hand, I can find where the stress and the tension is. And I can tell you the story, I can tell you how old you were, and I can tell you what emotions you felt there if you want to know. And then I put a coherent signal in, and it relaxes the tension and releases the emotion. So that's Biofield tuning, and that's how I do it.
And I just want to say, you can also do this by distance, right? Because I've had a session with you before where we just literally Skyped or Zoomed, and you were still able to really pinpoint and really specific things that had happened in my life. It was quite incredible.
Yeah, because think about it, consciousness is non-local. And so if I know how to tap into your emotional field, your energy field, and we're all part of the great oneness that is, whatever is happening there is happening here, it stands to reason that I can tap into your information, which is how that works. I mean, again, that's another conversation. But so I use Biofield tuning, and I work from the chakras, from the base chakra all the way up, one chakra at a time, over about 7 or 8 sessions to clear the field. That's how I do it. But if you're not interested in somebody else doing it for you, here's what I personally recommend to maintain a healthy field. And these are things that you have to do regularly. They're sustained practices or they don't work, okay? The first one, and it's been covered in your summit, so I don't need to explain it, breathe. Learn how to breathe. Learn how to breathe deeply. Strong, slow, deep, regular breathing will supercharge your body, will supercharge your blood, your immune system, your nervous system. Look, who's that guy? Is it Wim Hof, the ice diver? Go take some lessons from him. I think he knows a thing or two.
Wim Hof teaches that, and we just had Jenny Lee Taylor right before you who was teaching breath work as well. So go back and watch her session in Facebook.
Go watch hers. Breathing is the number one thing you can do. Second of all, heart breathing. And this is something that comes out of the research from the HeartMath Institute. So your heart is the most powerful source of electromagnetic energy in the body, okay? And it's producing the largest rhythmic electromagnetic field of your organs. And as you said with the monks, their heart fields reach way out into time and space. So heart breathing, do that on a regular basis. And if anyone doesn't know how that works, it's really simple. Just think of an elevated emotion, bring your awareness to your heart center, stay in the elevated emotion, go into the state of that emotion, and imagine that you're breathing it in and out through your heart. And if you do this, start for 5 minutes and then build on that every day, that's probably the best way to supercharge your electromagnetic field. But it's a sustained practice over time. That you're not going to get results straight away. You have to do the work. Here's something that my guides told me. This is a technique, and it's similar to that, in which you ground your energy by growing a tree root into the earth. You know, take your shoes off and then stay heart-centered and imagine you're bringing energy from up into your heart space and energy down from the sun so that they meet in the middle and ignite. And imagine the glow, the flame glowing and growing, and then set your intention, because the intention directs energy. And set your intention to cleansing your field and send it out from your heart space and imagine it spreading out into your human bubble. And do this daily will help. Change your self-talk. Enough people with the self-sabotaging and the self-hatred and the unworthiness. Just stop doing it. You know, think of Dr. Emoto and his water experiments. All of that stuff that you're telling yourself, you're polluting your thoughts. You're polluting your molecules, sorry. And so just stop. And if you find yourself doing that, start laughing about it. Just find the humor in it. Oh, there I go again.
There I go again with that bad talk.
You know what? Don't beat yourself up over it. Just laugh about it.
And Shireen Smith, one of our other presenters, Shireen Smith, also talked a lot about this as well. So go and check her presentation out. We've got about 2 minutes more, Loretta.
Oh, okay. Well,
have you got any more tips? We've got 4 already.
Oh, here's one really good one.
Okay, good.
Start being in awe and wonder of who you are. If you haven't figured out right now that you are a living, walking miracle, you need to start there, because you are a miracle. You deserve to be in awe and wonder of your own self. And we could talk and talk, couldn't we? Because really. So here's the thing. You know what? Here's my analogy. Here's my analogy. We are the sun, but we can't see our own light because of the clouds, and the clouds are our own creation. So we're getting rid of the clouds so that we can see who we really are, because really joy and love are our natural state. We don't have to aspire to be them. We are them. But we keep putting up these blocks that they're our own invention. And they stop us. They're the clouds that stop the sun from shining. That's it.
And, you know, I love that idea of we put the clouds there, and it reminds me of in this little book we've been talking about that we just did, Loretta has a quote in there.
You know, years ago, a friend of mine said to me, you know, my nickname is Lou. She said, you know, Lou, I was complaining about something. You know, Lou, you are making this shit up. And I went, okay. And then she said, why on earth would you keep making it up to be hard?
Mm.
And that piece of advice has served me, because whenever I get caught up in it, I think to myself, why am I making this so hard?
Blue skies all the way, my friend. Blue skies.
Exactly.
Get rid of the clouds, let them float past, notice it and go, there you go again. I have to read your quote out to everyone, because she had her own quote in the book, which was, "Today I experienced a miracle. I looked in the mirror and there I was." Oh, I love that so much. Type us a yes if you've loved this. Give us some love, or tell us love.
We don't have time for questions, do we?
Love this. We have enough time for one question.
Because you can put them in Facebook and I'll answer them.
Yes, that's probably still the best place to go. But if there is one, we do have a question. Let's have a quick look. How can we find our heart field? We were asked. How can we find our heart field?
You can imagine it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is you can go bring your thoughts down into your heart space, and you can do like an imaginary exploration. So you can imagine that you're expanding your awareness out to where the edge of that will stop. It's all intention. It's all imagination at the end of the day. If you have good rapport with your unconscious mind and you can have that conversation with your body. The other interesting thing is if you can practice this and become aware, it actually feels, the edge of your field offers resistance. So Eileen describes it as a plasma field. So it's a kind of a state of matter, but not. But it feels like, you know, when you have magnets, opposing magnets, and you put them up against themselves and they push each other away. If you are sensitive and you run your hand through where you think your field is, you'll feel it because it'll push back. Mm-hmm. The energy of that field will push back.
I know when I meditate, and I was encouraged, you know, you lay one hand in each lap, and as your thumbs come together, you can actually feel where that field of connection is. And that's why I sit my hands in my lap, so that I can feel
exactly
between my thumbs.
It does take a bit of training. But
we are going to have to wrap up. I want to end with Shanti's comment here in the chat box, which was, "Wow, in wonder and awe of who I am. This session was simply fascinating and reminded me that the power, the superhuman power, is within me, and that I just need to tap into it again and again. Time to be consistently coherent. Thank you and namaste." Couldn't have said it better myself, Shanti. Thank you.
We're already there. We already are it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop putting up the resistance. We are professional resistors. Just stop.
Yeah, come back to 0 point. Stop stepping outside.
Stop. Control your mind, control your body, control your energy. You know, and they're not that easy to do, but they take practice. But it's possible. I have an offer, and I'll put it in the Facebook.
Please. Yeah, and I've already posted a link to you on LinkedIn and also your website. So go and check Loretta out, show us some love. Go and visit her now in the Facebook group. People are saying, Dwan, Michelle, Jennifer, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. There's lots of them coming through. I know this is brilliant for many of you. Much love to you, Loretta.
This is amazing. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone, we have our last speaker starting in like 5 minutes, and that is Susan Hunter. So join Michelle with Susan for the next thing, and then in an hour's time, our closing ceremony. Thank you all. I'm glad you enjoyed this session. Go and visit Loretta now in the Superhuman Summit group. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.